Let me ask you something, and I need you to really sit with this question for a moment. What if the thing standing between you and a cancer diagnosis wasn't some miracle drug, wasn't an expensive surgery, wasn't some cutting-edge treatment that only the wealthiest people in the world could afford? What if it was something so simple, so ordinary, so completely available to you right now that most people completely overlook it? What if I told you that one of the most respected cancer researchers in the world, a man who has spent over 3 decades studying what actually causes cancer to grow and what stops it in its tracks? What if that man looked you in the eye and said, there is one daily habit, one, and if you do it consistently after the age of 50, you dramatically reduce your risk? Would you keep watching? Because that is exactly what we're talking about today. And I promise you, by the time this video is over, you are going to walk away with information that could genuinely change the trajectory of your health, maybe even your life. I'm Dr. Raymond, and welcome to Senior Wellness, the channel where we don't sugarcoat things, we don't drown you in medical jargon, and we never waste your time. If you're new here, I want you to know that everything we talk about on this channel is rooted in real science, real research, and a genuine desire to help you live longer, stronger, and with as much vitality as possible. So if that's the kind of content you're looking for, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell, because we put out new videos every single week. Now let's get into this, because honestly, this might be the most important video I've ever made for this channel. When we talk about cancer, most people, and I completely understand this, most people think of it as this terrifying, unpredictable monster that just appears out of nowhere. One day you're fine, the next day you're sitting in a doctor's office getting news you never prepared yourself for. And that fear, that sense of helplessness, is something I hear from people in my community all the time. People over 50 especially feel like they're just waiting. Like cancer is this inevitable thing lurking in the shadows, and there's nothing they can do except hope it doesn't find them. And I'm here today to tell you that is not the full picture. That is not the truth. The truth is that cancer, for the vast majority of people, is not a random event. It is a process. It is a slow, measurable, and in many cases, preventable cascade of biological events that unfolds over years, sometimes decades, before it ever shows up on a scan or produces a single symptom. And that process, that slow unfolding, is something science now understands better than at any other point in human history. And more importantly, we now know that there are things you can do every single day that either speed up that process or slow it down. Things that either feed the conditions cancer loves to grow in or starve it of everything it needs to thrive. So when I tell you that a leading oncologist, a man by the name of Dr. Lorenzo Cohen, who directs the Integrative Medicine Program at MD Anderson Cancer Center, one of the most prestigious cancer research institutions on the planet. When I tell you that he has spent years studying the lifestyle factors that prevent cancer, and that his research keeps pointing back to one foundational daily habit above all others, I need you to take that seriously. Because this isn't a YouTube influencer talking. This is a man who has dedicated his entire professional life to understanding what keeps cancer from happening in the first place. And that habit, that single most powerful daily habit, is structured, intentional, consistent physical movement. Not running marathons, not destroying yourself at the gym 5 days a week. I'm talking about deliberate, purposeful movement that becomes a non-negotiable part of your day. Walking, resistance training, swimming, cycling, whatever form makes sense for your body and your life. But doing it with intention, doing it every single day, making it as automatic as brushing your teeth or eating breakfast. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. You might be thinking, Dr. Raymond, come on, exercise? That's the big secret? I've been hearing that my whole life. And I hear you. I really do. But here's the thing. Most people have been told that exercise is good for them in a vague, general kind of way. Nobody has ever sat them down and explained the actual biological mechanism of why movement is essentially the most powerful anti-cancer intervention available to the average human being over the age of 50. Nobody has explained what is actually happening inside your body on a cellular level when you move consistently versus what happens when you don't. And once you understand that, once you truly understand it, you will never look at a 30-minute walk the same way again. So let's go there. Let's talk about what's actually happening. After the age of 50, your body undergoes a number of very significant biological shifts. Hormone levels change. Metabolism slows, inflammation, and this is the big one, chronic low-grade inflammation tends to increase. And this is where the story of cancer and lifestyle really begins to come into focus. Because chronic inflammation is, without any exaggeration, one of the most well-established drivers of cancer development that scientists have ever identified. When your body is in a state of constant, low-grade inflammatory stress, you are essentially creating the ideal environment for cancer cells to take hold, to multiply, and to evade your immune system's natural defenses. Now, here is where exercise becomes extraordinary. When you engage in regular physical movement, and we're talking about something as accessible as 30 to 45 minutes of brisk walking 5 or more days a week, or a combination of cardio and resistance training, your body responds in ways that are almost miraculous when you think about them. First, it dramatically reduces systemic inflammation. Your body produces anti-inflammatory compounds. Your inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein and interleukin-6 drop measurably. And over time, the inflammatory environment that cancer loves to exploit becomes significantly less hospitable. But it doesn't stop there. Exercise also causes your body to regulate insulin and blood glucose far more efficiently. And this matters enormously when we're talking about cancer, because cancer cells, particularly the aggressive, fast-growing kind, are essentially addicted to glucose. They need it to fuel their rapid replication. When your insulin sensitivity is compromised, when your blood sugar is chronically elevated, you are feeding cancer's fuel supply. Regular exercise is one of the most powerful tools we have for restoring insulin sensitivity and keeping blood sugar in a healthy range. In fact, the research on this is so consistent and so striking that many oncologists now refer to metabolic health as the foundation of cancer prevention. And then there's the immune system connection. And this one genuinely gives me chills every time I talk about it. Your immune system is your body's natural cancer surveillance network. Every single day, your body is producing cells that have the potential to become cancerous. And every single day, a healthy, robust immune system is finding those cells and destroying them before they ever get the chance to become a problem. Think of it like a security system. As long as the security system is working at full capacity, the house stays safe. The moment the security system weakens, vulnerabilities appear. What exercise does for immune function is profound. It increases the circulation of natural killer cells. These are specialized immune cells whose entire job is to identify and destroy abnormal cells, including early-stage cancer cells. It enhances the function of T lymphocytes, which are the immune system's primary fighting force. It reduces the levels of cortisol, the stress hormone that, when chronically elevated, actively suppresses immune function and accelerates the kind of cellular damage that can lead to cancerous mutations. When you exercise consistently, you are essentially upgrading your body's internal security system. You are making it faster, sharper, and more effective at catching the threats before they become crises. There's also something called tumor microenvironment. And this is a concept that cancer researchers have become increasingly focused on over the last decade. The tumor microenvironment is essentially the biological neighborhood surrounding a cancer cell. The conditions of blood flow, oxygen levels, hormonal signals, and inflammatory factors that determine whether a cancer cell stays small and contained or grows aggressively and spreads. Exercise has been shown in multiple studies to alter the tumor microenvironment in ways that make it significantly harder for cancer cells to grow and spread. It improves blood flow and oxygenation. It reduces the hormonal signals that cancer exploits to build its blood supply, and it disrupts the inflammatory signaling that cancer uses to communicate and spread to other parts of the body. I want to pause for a moment and let that sink in, because what I just described is not theory. This is not speculative. These are mechanisms that have been documented in peer-reviewed research published in journals like the Journal of the National Cancer Institute, Cancer Research, and the British Journal of Sports Medicine. The evidence is overwhelming. The scientific consensus is clear. Regular physical activity is one of the most potent cancer preventive tools that exist. And for people over the age of 50, where cancer risk naturally begins to climb, it is arguably the single most important lifestyle intervention available. Now, I want to talk to those of you who are watching this and feeling a little defeated right now. Because I know that for some of you, hearing exercise more doesn't feel like good news. It feels like pressure. It might feel like one more thing you should be doing and aren't. You might have joint pain. You might have mobility issues. You might have a schedule that feels impossible. You might have been sedentary for a long time, and the idea of starting feels overwhelming. And I want you to hear me very clearly when I say this. I am not asking you to become an athlete. I am not telling you to sign up for a 5K or join a CrossFit gym. What I am telling you is that the research is extraordinarily forgiving when it comes to what counts as protective movement. Studies have shown that even people who move from complete inactivity to just 30 minutes of moderate walking per day see measurable reductions in cancer biomarkers within weeks, not months, weeks. The human body is remarkably responsive. It wants to be in a state of health. When you give it the stimulus of movement, it begins to shift its biology in protective directions almost immediately. So if you are starting from zero, start from zero. Start with 10 minutes. Start with a walk around the block. Start with gentle movement in whatever form your body can currently tolerate. The direction matters more than the distance. Every step is working for you at the cellular level. And that is not motivational fluff. That is biology. And for those of you who are already fairly active, but you've been somewhat inconsistent, treating exercise as something you do when life permits, rather than something you prioritize regardless of what life throws at you, I want you to think about this. Consistency is the key variable that separates protective movement from movement that simply burns a few calories. The cancer preventive benefits of exercise are tied to the cumulative, sustained physiological changes that happen when movement is a daily reality. One great week at the gym, followed by 2 weeks of inactivity, does not give your body the sustained reduction in inflammation, the consistent immune activation, the chronic improvements in metabolic function that actually shift your cancer risk. This has to be a lifestyle. It has to be something you do because you understand at the deepest level that your life may depend on it. I also want to address something that I think is genuinely important and that doesn't get talked about enough in these conversations, and that is the psychological dimension of cancer prevention. Because the mind-body connection in cancer is real and it is significant. Chronic psychological stress, The kind of prolonged, unresolved stress that so many people over 50 are carrying, whether it's financial stress, relationship stress, the weight of caretaking for aging parents or adult children, that kind of chronic stress elevates cortisol, suppresses immune function, drives inflammation, and creates the exact same biological conditions we've been talking about. Exercise is one of the most effective stress regulation tools ever studied. It literally changes the brain's chemistry. It reduces the stress response at the hormonal level. It improves sleep quality, which is itself a massive variable in cancer risk. It gives the nervous system a way to discharge the tension and anxiety that otherwise accumulate and damage your biology. So, when I tell you to exercise every day, I am not just talking about your muscles or your waistline. I am talking about your mind, your stress hormones, your immune system, your sleep, your metabolism, your inflammatory markers, your cellular DNA repair capacity. All of it. Movement touches every single one of these systems simultaneously. There is no pharmaceutical on the market, not a single one, that produces this breadth and depth of beneficial biological effects in a healthy human body. Exercise is, in the truest sense of the word, medicine. And it is medicine that you can take every single day for free. Now let me give you some practical structure here, because I want you to leave this video with more than just motivation. I want you to leave with a real plan. The research suggests that for cancer prevention after 50, the most protective pattern of movement involves two complementary components. The first is aerobic movement, the kind that elevates your heart rate and keeps it elevated for a sustained period. Brisk walking, cycling, swimming, dancing, light jogging, anything that gets your heart pumping and makes you breathe a little harder than usual. The target that the research consistently points to is 150 to 300 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity per week. That breaks down to about 30 to 45 minutes most days of the week. That is completely achievable. That is within reach of almost anyone reading or watching this, regardless of your current fitness level. Because you can break it into segments. 3 10-minute walks spread across a day still counts. You don't need to do it all at once. The second component is resistance training. Movement that challenges your muscles against some form of resistance, whether that's weights, resistance bands, body weight exercises, or even water resistance if you're swimming. Muscle tissue is metabolically active tissue. When you have more of it, your body burns glucose more efficiently, your metabolic rate stays higher, and you maintain the kind of hormonal environment that is protective against cancer. After 50, we naturally begin to lose muscle mass at an accelerating rate, a process called sarcopenia. And resistance training is the primary way to fight that. Twice a week is the minimum target. If you can get to 3 times a week, even better. Beyond the exercise itself, I want to address something that works in tandem with movement, and that's the importance of reducing the time you spend completely sedentary. Even if you work out every morning, if you then sit for 10 hours straight without moving, you are still accumulating what researchers call sedentary time risk. Studies have found that prolonged sitting independently raises inflammatory markers and is associated with higher cancer risk even in people who exercise regularly. So, in addition to your intentional exercise time, think about building movement into your day in smaller ways. Set a reminder to stand up and walk for 2 minutes every hour. Take the stairs, park further away, stand while you're on the phone. These micro movements add up and they matter. And I want to close today with something that I feel deeply about, something that I think about whenever I talk to someone who is feeling overwhelmed by the idea of making health changes later in life. I want you to know, and please hear this, that it is never too late. I cannot say that with enough emphasis or enough genuine feeling. The research on exercise and cancer prevention includes studies done on men and women in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. And what those studies consistently show is that even people who begin a regular exercise habit at those ages see significant, measurable reductions in cancer biomarkers and cancer-related mortality. The body does not stop responding. The biology does not become irreversible. At every age, at every stage, movement produces protective change. You are not too old. Your body has not given up on you. Your cells are still listening. Every time you lace up your shoes and go for that walk, every time you do those resistance exercises, every time you choose movement over stillness, you are sending your body a signal. You are saying, I am alive, I am here, I intend to keep going. And your body responds to that signal in ways that are profound, measurable, and real. This is Dr. Raymond at Senior Wellness, and I want you to know I make these videos because I believe that the people watching them deserve access to real, science-based information that can actually change the quality and the length of their lives. If this video gave you something useful today, if it shifted something in how you think about your body and what you're capable of, please share it with someone you love. Because information like this doesn't belong locked away in medical journals. It belongs in the hands of real people making real decisions about their real lives. Leave me a comment below. I genuinely read them, and tell me, what's one thing you're going to do differently this week based on what you heard today? I want to know. I want to hear from you. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do, because we are just getting started, and the best content this channel has ever produced is on its way. Take care of yourself, move your body, and I'll see you in the next one.